I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is a Friday edition, and I was just watching the footage there in our opening, realizing that I don't think any of the players that we have in there are actually on those teams. Those were good times. I wish I had those players going to London with my team this week, but we will get to that soon. Before we do, Dennis, how's your week been?
Man, I'm so glad it's Friday. Just the week is, the day job is grinding me. It's grinding me. I talked a while back about I got a nice little promotion, nice fat raise, and they're getting their money's worth. They're certainly getting their money's worth. So, but baseball season's over for the boy, so that's a little something. Now it's trying to fit in, getting some Bo Jackson time in so he can get some workout and not lose his edge. Big Shorty just got accepted to Ohio University, so that's Bowling Green and OU under his belt. We're just waiting on the big one from OSU. That's all submitted. We just a couple days ago got all that taken care of, and we feel pretty good about his chances of getting into OSU. So we're preparing for his audition on December 3rd. And then it's going to be Christmas, and we've got to sprint until Christmas. The fantasy football season is like in the second half of the point scoring season. It's just flying by. I was talking with Evan Brown from Dynasty Debates today, and he's like, whoa, this has been such a crazy season. And I'm like, man, we say that every year. It's a crazy season. He's like, yeah, but 25 point or 20 point fantasy points are 25% down or something. I'm like, well, I mean, old quarterbacks, they stop being elite, and it's like they fall off a cliff kind of. And we've got like four of them that are dropped, that have seemed to have dropped, and Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Russell Wilson. They seem to, and then Tannehill was always a reliable mid-tier guy, and he seems to have kind of crapped the bed this year. There are a lot of guys that just and the pipeline for quarterbacks. I was talking with Garrett Price last night on the Dynasty Nerds show on BSN, and there's just not a lot of talent in the quarterback pipeline. And so while we've got a lot of guys that are coming to the end, there's really only, Bruning says it all the time, there's like two guys in this class that we feel really good about. And while Hendon Hooker is picking up a lot of speed, Hendon Hooker is older than Lamar Jackson and Kenny Pickett.
The other thing I always try not to get too hopeful about is 2 years ago, it was supposed to be like the can't miss quarterback class where you had five rolling in there. They haven't been life hasn't been that easy for these can't miss prospects. So you never know. And even the big five in the class before that, we got Lamar and Josh Allen have been good, but the other three first-round quarterbacks, can I interest anyone in a Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield 3-for-1? So,
and the way it's going, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that speaking of falling off a cliff suddenly, that does bring us to our Thursday night game where the Baltimore Ravens went down to Tampa Bay and won 27-22. Tampa Bay falling now to 3-5 on the season. We will get to them in a minute, but Dennis, when is a win not really a win? Well, maybe it's when Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and your new running back, Gus Edwards, all go out with injury during the game. We saw this happen to the Ravens last year after a promising start. Just too many injuries eventually took a toll. Is that a concern now?
I think Bateman is probably the biggest concern, just because he's supposed to be stepping into the Hollywood Brown role, and my brain kept glitching on Antonio, and it's not Antonio. So he was the one that was supposed to step up and be that guy, and he hasn't been able to shake the injury bug. Duvernay's been playing really, really well in his stead. Demarcus Robinson stepped up a little bit last night, but I don't think those two guys have just the raw talent that Rashad Bateman does. They said that Andrews' injury is not something they're concerned about, and the way Isaiah Likely played, I don't think I'd be concerned if it is. Likely played a phenomenal game. And then Gus, I think, he's got a hamstring, but I think with the 10 days off, he's going to be fine. But then Kenyon Drake bounced back. Like last week, I was among those people trying to get Kenyon Drake off my roster because he wasn't doing diddly squat. And this week, he gets the touchdown. Now I've got a couple teams that I've got Drake and Edwards, and now I get to play, fantasy football roulette with which one I put in my lineup.
Yeah, and you got to start to wonder a little bit about Bateman because he was basically unavailable most of last year and hasn't played a ton of games this year. But I tend to be with you. I think the big injury for Baltimore last year was Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson can stay up there, hopefully good things can happen. On the flip side, Tampa Bay, they're continuing to struggle. 3-5 now. Haven't really found a lot of sync on offense. Managed to come score some points late, but it was some tough going. They're fortunate to be in a not too robust division, which we'll talk about in a minute, but are the Buccaneers in real danger of missing the playoffs?
That was one of the nicest ways to say a shitty division that I've heard all day.
People who are Broncos fans can't cast stones right now.
It's that division is open, and all it's going to take is somebody to get on a run, to just hit their stride and put together, a 9-8, 8-9 season probably, and pull off winning that division. Tampa Bay's struggles all go back to the interior of their offensive line. We've been talking about it for weeks. Until that gets right and opens up some lanes for Lenny and take some of the pressure off Brady, I think they're going to continue to struggle. Not having Godwin for most of the first half of the season here has been not ideal. Julio, he played a game, missed 2, played a game, missed 3, played last night. So we'll see him in week 13.
Probably.
So, Rachaad White is looking good, but he's got fresh legs. I think some of he's getting through some of the holes that Fournette isn't making it through at, his advanced age of 26 or 27. Excuse me. But Tom is they're not quite connecting. And I don't know how much of it has been, him being away from the team midweek, but it all goes back to the center of that line. If that line can gel, they've got 2 real good offensive tackles, and he doesn't have the safety blanket in Gronk that he's had for so many years. But they got to if they can just start to put it together at center and guard, they have as good a chance as any to go on a run and win that division.
Yeah, and I tend to think they'll get back to 8 to 10 wins, which is probably all it's going to take. and manage to win that division. Hopefully, it's hard to tell what kind of a toll everything's taking on Tom Brady. For those that haven't been watching, some big personal news for him came out, and hope that he makes it through that. And Tampa Bay will, I think eventually they're going to find themselves, because you're right, that not exactly juggernauts staring them down in the division, but they did lose a couple of those division games already. So you never know. On to the rest of week 8. And speaking of staring down juggernauts, the Denver Broncos at 2-5 head to London to battle the 2-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm sorry, London. Dennis, Russell Wilson did a lot of exercises on the plane to get ready. Broncos have lost 4 straight, facing a lot of scrutiny. Him personally, the coaching staff, everyone involved. Probably the people that work at Walmart are getting scrutiny now too, just by association. Can Russ get the passing game going?
They've got talent. And I think overall, he's still a pretty good thrower of the football. I don't know if it's just the offense isn't clicking with him. Hackett, and who's the offensive coordinator?
Justin Outen.
But it's a Hackett offense, right?
Yeah, he calls plays. He does all that.
And it's just, the chemistry isn't there. As much as I would like to think that they can bounce back, it doesn't look great. I mean, Russ is notorious for his slow starts, but by week 5, he generally is settled into a groove, and we're in week 8 now, and he hasn't quite settled into that groove. It's losing Javonte Williams, and the misplaying of the Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray situation. Greg Dulcich looks good. That's easy for me to say. But Dulcich looks good, and they do have weapons in Judy and Sutton and even KJ Hamler. So can it come around? Yeah. Will it? There's been a Jim Tomsula before, and Hackett might be the next.
I mean, if they don't look good on Sunday, they might just leave Hackett in London, let him be somebody else's problem. On the flip side, Dennis, the Jaguars dealt James Robinson to the Jets this week, so is it wheels up for Travis Etienne?
Man, Snoop Connor season, baby. Snoop Connor.
I am waiting. It would be the most Jaguars thing in the world to trade James Robinson. Snoop Connor gets 20 carries while Etienne gets like 5.
No, I think they've I feel like they've settled in. It's going to be he's probably going to get 65% of the snaps. He's going to dominate the touches. I think if they have some short yardage stuff, they may go to Connor. They put Jermichael Hasty in. He's a good pass catcher. He's got some explosiveness. But I feel like Hasty is more of a handcuff back to ETN. So I do think we might see a little bit of Snoop Connor. But I also think we might see Trevor Lawrence trying to get back in sync with the Joneses and Christian Kirk. While he's over there in England. I mean, he may pull the, what do I got to lose? Now, Lawrence is playing okay. He's not playing where you would like a second-year number 1 overall pick to play. He just hasn't got there, but he's making strides.
He's gone more to the Baker Mayfield school of number 1 picks.
Yeah, he's there's still hope. Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
It's hard to believe both these teams were once 2-1. Now they're both 2-5. I am taking the Broncos.
So am I.
Well, we mentioned the NFC South isn't exactly robust, and that's because after Tampa Bay's loss last night, the winner of the Carolina Panthers, who come in at 2-5, against the Atlanta Falcons, who are now 3-4, will be in first place in the NFC South. So it's either going to be a 500 team or a 3-5 team. Speaking of potential 3-5 teams, PJ Walker looked pretty good last week. Can he keep that going? And more importantly, can he keep DJ Moore fantasy relevant?
Well, I'm pulling for Carolina because I want to see the video of Matt Rule walking around outside the stadium flipping the double birds at everybody because they're in
Well, but
first place.
they might still be 1-7 if he was the head coach. They're winning without it.
So PJ Walker knows where his bread is buttered, and that's with DJ Moore. Getting rid of Robbie Anderson, that pushes not Shi Smith, Terrace Marshall Jr. up the depth chart, Shi Smith, Rashad Higgins, so they've got guys after DJ Moore. So
Jags after.
Yeah. They've got guys after people who classify as wide receivers after DJ Moore. So I feel like Moore, Ben McAdoo as an OC and head coach, his number one wide receiver consistently got 10 plus targets. Now, for most of that time, it was Odell Beckham. And so I feel like DJ Moore he's going to get that 10 plus target game on a consistent basis, regardless of who the quarterback is. I just don't know if they're going to be able to convert them. There's a reason PJ Walker is kind of taking the Josh Johnson route to quarterbacking.
On the flip side, the Falcons, they've been decent, finishing 3-4, but it's been a lot of Marcus Mariota being kind of a one-man show. We have seen both Drake London and Kyle Pitts struggle in a very low-volume passing offense. Do you have any faith in either of them this week?
Well, I think it poses the question, are they struggling because it's a low-volume offense, or is it a low-volume offense because they're struggling? And I tend to think that they're struggling because it's a low-volume offense. For them to have been behind 91% of the snaps last week, and Arthur Smith to only throw it 13 times or 15 times,
13.
Something absurdly low like that. I don't know. I mean, to me, if you don't trust Mariota to make some plays, I'm not saying you got to throw the ball 50 times, but you got to throw 25, 30, 33. You've got to put the ball in the air. I like Tyler Algier, but he's not a transcendent talent at running back that you can lean on. He's a good enough running back that if you have a balanced attack, he's going to be productive. But they don't have a balanced attack right now. And I think Pitts is a target. If you've got a contending team out there that needs a tight end and you have a tight end, I think you go and you try to acquire Pitts from them while you're rebuild, because I can't believe it's going to be this way forever. Same thing with Drake London. But until they get passing volume, I just don't know how you can count on either one of them. Next week, they're both starting. We've got 6 teams on a bye. This week, 4 teams on a bye. So they're probably starting. Oh, is it only 2 this week?
Chargers, Chiefs.
Oh, that's right. So, you probably have a better option. And if you do, you're going to stick them in your lineup.
Yeah, I'm not starting either of them right now. I do wonder how many of Mariota's carries are supposed to be passing plays where he takes off. Might impact it a little bit, but right now I just don't have any confidence in their passing offense. That being said, I am still taking the Falcons.
I'm going to go with Carolina. I'm going to ride the
I know
PJ and DJ. Let's rock it.
You're hoping to introduce a little anarchy.
Well, maybe that's it.
Next up, the 3-4 Chicago Bears, fresh off a big Monday Night Football win, heading to Dallas to battle the 5-2 Cowboys. Dennis, Justin Fields is quarterback 4 over the last 3 weeks. Can he keep it going against a good Dallas defense? Man,
I can't tell you how much I want to say yes. I think he's QB 15 on the year or something now. He's climbing the ranks, and a lot of it is because he is running. They're getting a little more passing. They're getting a little more comfortable. He's making a few more plays in the passing game. but I don't think this is his week. I think this week, I think he's going to be in that 13 to 18 range, primarily because he holds the ball, and he's got to. This is a defense that you're going to have to get the ball out against, and he has it with his tendency to hold the ball and Trayvon Diggs' ability to make a play on the ball in the air. I don't think this is setting up as a great game for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dallas has a pretty ferocious defense. It's more I still have concerns about Chicago's offensive line. On the flip side, it looks like Ezekiel Elliott is not going to suit up. Dak came back last week. They kind of eased him back in, but is it going to be another step forward for the passing game this week?
Well, I kind of think they want to see that they're going to take the opportunity and see what they can get out of Pollard. But against the Bears, part of the challenge I think comes from they're not gonna probably give up a lot of points on defense. So there's not going to be a big reason for them to throw the ball a lot. Now, as I say this, Chicago is going to go out and put up 37 points with smoke and mirrors, and Dak's going to have to throw the ball 60 times. That's just the way my luck goes. But they trust Pollard. They like Pollard. Pollard has the size to be a bell cow back. He's not a smaller guy like Darrell Henderson. Pollard's 6 foot, 215. He's got the size to be a bell cow back. He just happens to be with Zeke, who has pictures of Jerry Jones, and so he gets to be the starter.
Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Mike McCarthy, something.
No, I think they'll throw. They've got Dallas has a ton of weapons, and they're going to use them. But when they get up, and they will, they're going to shorten the clock. They'll run. Tony Pollard's probably in for 20 carries.
Yeah, and I think Dak threw it 25 times last week, which is a double Mariota pretty much.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see him between maybe 30, 35. I don't think they're ready to go back to throwing till Dak's arm falls off. I think they've discovered that isn't their best look. That being said, I am taking the Dallas Cowboys.
So am I.
Next up on the docket, the 4-3 Miami Dolphins head to take on our boys, the 1-5 Detroit Lions. That hurts. Dennis, we've seen, obviously they have a pretty robust passing game in Miami, but we've seen Raheem Mostert really come on the last few weeks. Are you starting to have confidence in him as an RB2?
Well, he's RB15 over the last 4 weeks, and that seems like a solid trend to me. For me, I feel like Mostert's one of those guys that you're like, I'd love to commit to him, but he always gets hurt. You know what? Commit to him until he gets hurt. He's probably going to get hurt, and Chase Edmonds or Myles Gaskin will come in and save the day and go into the next couple of weeks, and you won't know which one it's going to be. But ride Mostert until he breaks. He's what? He's a 29-year-old back. He's not somebody that I think we're looking at and going, hey, he's got this big future. So in fantasy, he's proven over the last few weeks he's a solid RB2. Play him as a solid RB2, and when he breaks, go do something else.
Yeah, I like what he's doing. You're right. The biggest thing for him is always staying healthy. I've liked him the last couple of years. He's burned me. We will see. On the flip side, finally, it looks like DeAndre Swift is going to make his return. What are you expecting?
I expect a timeshare. I think they'll split the carries, him and Jamal Williams, but Swift will dominate the receiving work. And hopefully, fingers crossed, he is healthy. He's not on the injury report. Everything looks good. Amon-Ra St. Brown is back. There is some opportunity for Detroit to surprise at home against Miami. But it's 2023 Detroit. I'm not putting my money there.
Yeah, I had hopes for Detroit this year, but I'm taking the Dolphins.
So am I.
Next up on the docket, the 3-4 Arizona Cardinals travel to Minnesota to take on the 5-1 Vikings. Dennis, DeAndre Hopkins looked great in his return. Zach Ertz has been pretty solid all season, but do you have any faith in either new acquisition Robbie Anderson or our boy Rondale Moore?
Moore seems like they're using him. They're trying to get him involved. So he feels like he's a 6-7 target guy, but he also feels like he's going to convert them probably into about 35 yards. He may get a touchdown. I like Zach Ertz. I think he's providing value. He's filling a role that the other guys don't. And, Hopkins is going to keep doing what he does. I think when Brown gets back, Hopkins will continue to generally dominate the targets. He's going to be a 10-target guy. I don't know that he's going to break 100 yards frequently, but Hopkins is a guy that has exceptional ball skills. Robbie Anderson's a deep threat. He does what he does. I played him last week in a couple spots just because I was like, I'm looking at guys that were projected to score 6 points or something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw Robbie in there and see if maybe he catches. They're probably going to throw him a couple deep shots. Let's just see if he catches one. They threw him one, I think. He didn't catch it. He didn't really play much. I'm like, whatever. I'm rebuilding on these teams. I wasn't counting on them to win. But I like Ertz. If I'm looking for a second receiving option, I'm probably looking at Ertz.
On the flip side, the Vikings are 5-1. They've looked pretty solid. We haven't seen gaudy numbers from Kirk Cousins, but he's been pretty steady. How do you feel about him? Low end QB1?
I mean, Arizona gives up the sixth most fantasy points to quarterbacks. And when you've got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith, and Dalvin Cook, the ability to throw the ball is very prevalent. So I feel like Kirk's comfortably in line for QB1 game this week. And you just got to love Justin Jefferson. Oh my God, that guy's so good.
I'm taking the Vikings. I can't believe we're tracking for a top 2 NFC seed for the Vikings.
Yeah, their offensive line has come together well and is playing well. And let's face it, that makes all the difference. I'm going to spout it from the rooftops. Build your team from the inside out.
Next up, I assume you were taking the Vikings too.
Yeah.
Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders 2-4 at the 2-5 New Orleans Saints. Darren Waller is looking like he is going to finally be back in the lineup. Is he going to be in your lineup?
I mean, what are your options? I mean, we know that Darren Waller is
in a week where Mark Andrews already played and Travis Kelce's on a bye. Tight end is looking a little less rosy.
Right. So it's like we know what Darren Waller's ceiling is. And while we know also, at least we think we know, that Derek Carr wants to get the ball to Devontae Adams, Derek Carr doesn't have any issue getting the ball to Darren Waller either. So to me, this is a game, I think Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out. The Saints defense isn't terrific on the back end with Lattimore out. And so I feel like there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the Raiders to pass the ball. And then they've got Josh Jacobs to provide a lot of balance, who is just having a monster season this year. So I think if I have Waller, I can't see not playing him.
Yeah. He seems to have done fine. I guess the one I was wrong about was Hunter Renfrow. I didn't realize Mac Hollins would be a thing. On the flip side, Andy Dalton's getting the start over now what they say is healthy Jameis Winston. Do you think Andy Dalton is a better option for the Saints offense?
I think they're two sides of the same coin. I think Dalton is the head side. Winston is the tail side, meaning that you get a little more conservatism and a little less upside with Dalton. You get a little more, excitement and explosiveness with Jameis, but there's a certain amount of risk that comes with it. To me, I think the ceiling is basically the same for the non-quarterback players for the Saints, regardless of who is playing quarterback between those two guys. If Jake Luton gets in there, then it's a completely different story. But they know that Chris Olave is the number one dude there.
Yeah,
he's taking
he's
over.
the only available dude,
right? And then you're going to get somebody between Kevin White, Deontay Hardy, Raheem Traquan Smith, or Marquez Callaway. One of them will catch a bomb, and that's like rolling a dice to see if you win the lottery.
It's like our pick, the YOLO King, Taysom Hill. I am taking the Raiders.
So am I.
Next up, a AFC East battle. The 3-4 New England Patriots, off a humiliating Monday Night Football loss, come to battle the 5-2 New York Jets, who are somehow underdogs at home despite having a better record. Dennis, on Monday night, Mac Jones got yanked pretty shortly into that game after making his mark on one of the Bears' lower body parts, the kick seen around the world, and also an interception. But he's been taking all the reps. Bill Belichick said he's fully available. He is expected to start. Is it going to be another short leash?
I think that, in my opinion, New England is a hot mess, and it's probably one of the worst coaching performances that Sling Blade has ever done. I think that Bill Belichick is whatever he's tried to do with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as offensive coordinators, offensive minds. It's just not there. And I don't know who engineered this. Well, we're going to pull Mac and put in Bailey Zappi. If you want to play Zappi, play Zappi. Belichick is not someone that I'm used to, I guess, cowing to draft capital. And it seems like that he wants to play Zappi. But there's like, well, Mac Jones was a first-round draft pick. And then Zappi looked great for, 15 plays? And then he couldn't move the team either.
And I think that's kind of what ended up going back to Jones, because he had 2 horrendous interceptions in that game.
So for me, I think the leash, is it short? I don't know. I don't know what to expect from the Patriots this year. It's really just a toss up. When they go out there, they could come out and run the ball for 250 yards and look completely unstoppable. And then come out one week and the next week, and they're going to throw the ball, 35 times and look completely unstoppable. And then they're going to come out and they're just going to, lay a turd on the field, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know either. It's been a weird year. On the flip side, we know Breece Hall is out. Michael Carter is there. He looked good last year. He looked good coming in last Sunday. They traded for James Robinson. What do you expect the split to be between those two?
The trade for Robinson almost feels like they've said, we like the role Michael Carter plays, and so we want to keep him in that role. And if that's the case, then Robinson is probably going to get more touches. But is the knee going to hold up? Has the knee pain gone away? Is he going to be able to handle it? That's the real question for me. I liked the move, but to me, if it was me, I guess I would have Carter being the lead back and Robinson being the fairly clear backup. But then they've got Ty Johnson too, and he's going to probably get some run. And it's right now, it feels like I'm going to need to give the Jets backfield a couple games to see how this shakes out. And if Zach Wilson can't kind of get it together in the passing game, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to mean for the running game, because a lot of times it looks like Wilson is just kind of running for his life back there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think Carter will be more of the lead back this week, but I agree that we have to wait a couple weeks to see what's going to happen. No Corey Davis this week, so maybe Elijah Moore will actually get a target.
Yeah,
I am taking the Jets.
big Denzel Mims week. I'm taking the Jets too, but to me, it's really a coin flip.
Next up, we have the Battle of Pennsylvania as the 2-5 Pittsburgh Steelers head to battle the 6-0 fresh off a bye Philadelphia Eagles. The schedule doing the Steelers no favors. Kenny Pickett's in there. They have a lot of great passing weapons, including 3 big receivers in Pittsburgh and Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and Chase Claypool. The problem is the volume has not been there. How are we feeling about these 3 receivers? Do you trust any of them as top 24?
Well, Pickett's been getting plenty of attempts. It hasn't been for a ton of yardage and a ton of completions. I mean, he threw the ball, 58 times, 54 times, something. So, again, he's kind of scrambling a little bit to keep himself alive. So I'm not overly concerned with the volume. The question becomes, will they start to convert a little bit better? We love the George Pickens miraculous catches. He's living up to the expectations. Deontay's still the high volume guy there. I think really this week I view them as a wide receiver 2 in Johnson and a couple wide receiver 3s. Maybe even Claypool as a flex instead of a wide receiver 3. That's sort of where I have them right now.
Yeah, I don't see any of them as better than a wide receiver 3, because even Deontay Johnson, he had 13 targets 2 weeks ago, got 5 receptions, 10 targets, 5 receptions. Last week, 12 targets, 5 receptions. He's getting targets, but he's not getting much in terms of receptions, yardage, and touchdowns. The one that I feel the best about starting is actually their tight end, Freiermuth.
Yeah, he's converting.
The Eagles were super hot before their bye. Do you think they're going to pick up where they left off?
Yeah, why wouldn't they? I mean, they've got Miles Sanders is having a career year. Dallas Goedert is as solid as ever. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have started to balance it out a little more. Early in the season, there was a couple really big, one was a hero, one was a zero kind of game. And they're starting to get a little bit more consistent in their production. And they're both really good wide receivers, and they're really different wide receivers in how they play the game. So I like them to keep going. They just acquired Robert Quinn to give the defense a boost. Darius Slay has been playing out of his mind. And so to me, it feels like they're saying, hey, we kind of really liked winning that Super Bowl thing. Let's do that again. So yeah. I'm in on them this year.
Yeah, I think they'll lose a game this season, but it ain't going to be this week. Give me the Eagles.
As do I.
Dennis, this next one couldn't be a more perfect marriage of styles of play. The Tennessee Titans 4-2 at the Houston Texans 1-4-1. Mike Vrabel really loves to run the ball, and the Houston Texans can't defend the run to save their lives. Aside from Derrick Henry, is there any Titan you should be considering playing?
Not really. I mean, if you're super desperate, you maybe throw Robert Woods in at your last flex and hope he catches a touchdown on one of his 2 or 3 receptions.
Tannehill can even stay healthy.
And then who knows what's going to go on if Malik Willis has to play.
They're going to run the wishbone if Malik Willis
comes. So it's Derrick Henry, and that's about it there.
I agree. On the flip side, for the Texans, Brandon Cooks had a week of practice, but he's questionable with a wrist injury. We haven't seen them really get much out of anyone else. How are you feeling about the Texans passing game?
Looks like Davis Mills is the best quarterback from his rookie class, it seems.
Damning with faint praise.
It's something. Nico Collins was coming on, and now he's banged up. Maybe that opens up the game a little bit more for Cooks. Brevin Jordan is back, and he's starting to get back in the mix at tight end. Damian Pierce has really been the guy carrying that team. I like what he's doing there. They just don't have a ton of weapons, and we know that going in. But I don't think that Tennessee does either. And so, I don't know what the over/under is on this game, but
it's probably not high.
It's probably going to be worth taking the under on it.
That's for me. I'm playing Derrick Henry and Damian Pierce, and that's pretty much it out of this game. I am taking the Titans.
I'm taking the Texans.
That would be an interesting turn of events. The Washington Commanders 3-4 at the Indianapolis Colts 3-1. We'll call this the backup bowl for the Commanders. Brian Robinson and Antonio.
Are they playing for the plunger trophy?
Yeah, whichever coach has to get fired. Whichever one loses has to get fired. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson have actually coexisted pretty well the last couple of weeks, both of them putting up some interesting numbers, while J.D. McKissick has been the one that's been an afterthought. Are you starting to feel better about those two guys both at least being a flex option?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and we talked. I think we were all kind of universally in agreement that we felt if Robinson took the starting job, that McKissick was going to be the guy to suffer, because he just doesn't provide the bang that Gibson does in the passing game. And Gibson also provides more in the running game than McKissick. So, kudos to us for being on that. I think that a lot of it's going to come down to how does Taylor Heineke, does he melt down this week? Does he keep it up? Does he not? He's prone to those Fitz interception games.
Yeah.
So,
fortunately, both these teams are pretty milquetoast. So, on the flip side, speaking of milquetoast, the Sam Ehlinger era begins. Are you pumped, Dennis?
He has some of the traits, I think, that the modern NFL quarterback is going towards, as in not just pocket mobility, but the ability to run the ball a little bit too. So while I think Ehlinger brings that to the table, he doesn't have a great arm. I was telling Garrett Price last night that, can Ehlinger win? Can he do that, being sort of this new school NFL quarterback with the arm he has? Joe Montana didn't have a great arm either. And now I'm not comparing Sam Ehlinger to Joe Montana. I'm just saying that neither one of them could really throw the ball very far. So that may hamper Pierce and Pittman downfield. But if they're able to convert some of the other routes that they have in their route tree, it may be a wash, because it isn't like Ryan was chucking it down the field 60 yards either. I like seeing Ehlinger get a shot just because, he hasn't had a chance to fail yet. I don't expect him to be hugely successful, but man, let's check that box off and say, well, now we know what we have. Let's go get another guy. At some point, you just have to. You can't just sit back and say, I wonder what this guy can do. You got to put him out there and go, all right, let's see what else there is.
That was the best. It's fitting that in the Carson Wentz Bowl, Carson Wentz won't be playing for either team too. You know what? I'm not sure what to expect from Ehlinger, and I don't know why, but God help me, I'm taking the Colts.
I'm going to take the Commanders. I just feel like
he needs that chance. He's going to fail. Well, on to what might be one of the better games of Sunday. The 3-4 San Francisco 49ers at the 3-3.
Have you seen Matt Stafford play this year?
He had a whole bye week to get right. At the 3-3 Los Angeles Rams. Dennis, Christian McCaffrey now has a full week of practice, and Deebo Samuel's been ruled out, which means that they're going to need another weapon. Do you expect a bigger game from McCaffrey?
The guy I expect a bigger game from is Juwan Jennings. McCaffrey will have a
How
bigger
dare
game.
you, sir? We have so many other gosh darn options. I need to get going.
McCaffrey will have a bigger game in that he will have a much larger share of the running back opportunities, likely 90-ish% if I had to guess. I think Jeff Wilson is let's all pour one out for the grinder there. But McCaffrey is just an exceptional player, and so he's going to get lots of opportunity. The passing game, though, they're going to need somebody else that's not coming out of the backfield. And I think Jennings provides a little bit of something that neither Ayuk nor Debo do, and that's just big. He's their biggest wideout, I believe. But no, I think McCaffrey, if you got McCaffrey, you're plugging him and you're playing him, and you're hoping Debo gets back. I want to see this offense at full strength. And we're getting cheated.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'll be curious. I think he'll have a better game. I am personally hoping that Ayuk does well because he's the one I'm slotting in, not Juwan Jennings. On the flip side, Cooper Kupp's going great gums. It looks like Van Jefferson is going to be activated for this game. Still no Cam Akers. Outside of Kupp, you have Jefferson, Robinson, Higbee. Any of them interest you?
If I'm going to play a wide receiver that's not Kupp or Robinson, I'm probably playing Ben Skowronek. I mean, he's getting carries.
Actually, you might play him over Robinson the way things are going.
I know I'm a big proponent of when the team clears a guy, that means that's good enough for me. But I just think the Rams offense has struggled enough this year that unless I'm absolutely desperate, I'm okay to leave Van Jefferson on my bench.
Give me the Los Angeles Matthew Staffords.
I'm taking the fighting Christian McCaffreys.
One of us is going to be sad. It's almost always me.
You'll get over it.
Yeah. The 6-1 New York Giants travel to take on the first place 4-3 Seattle Seahawks. Dennis Daniel Jones is QB9 on the season. Is he in your starting lineup?
So it's like the NFL is in the upside down, isn't it?
I know both these quarterbacks are top 10 quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Daniel Jones. They should be in your freaking starting lineups.
I mean, how can you not start him? He's adding. He's always been a good athlete, despite his trip and fall on the 80-yarder a season or two ago. Jones he's not turning the ball over this year. His accuracy is up a little bit. I shudder to think what would have happened if he had actual NFL caliber wide receivers playing with him all year.
If they get him Jerry Jeudy, which that's the latest rumor, be curious to see. I already think the Giants are potentially a playoff team.
I mean, I like the way they're playing, and I mean, I think Evan Neal is out this game though, so that may present a little bit of an issue for him. But Kayvon Thibodeau is starting to come on the D line, looking phenomenal.
On the flip side, Ken Walker, since coming in, has really exploded. He was incredible last week. He's looking like he's got some Rookie of the Year potential. Do you think he's a top 10 option at running back?
Yeah, I think that right now, there's been he's shown us enough explosion and power, and they're actually giving him the ball. They're not, Pete Carroll's not getting cutesy and deciding, hey, we're going to have a 20 carry DJ Dallas game. To me, I think that if you've got Kenneth Walker, you're rolling him out there until Pete Carroll gets screwy and outsmarts himself.
I am actually taking the first place Seahawks.
I'm going to take the first place Giants.
They are not in first place.
They will be.
No, only if the Eagles lose. I think you forgot they're in the Eagles division. Anyway, Sunday night football. The Green Bay Packers 3-4 at the 5-1, fresh off a bye. Buffalo Bills schedule makers doing Aaron Rodgers no favors either. Alan Lazard is doubtful. Might have been downgraded to out by now.
He has
Yeah.
been.
The Packers offense is struggling. They are double-digit underdogs to the Bills for, I think what they said is the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career. What do the Packers need to do to try to get a win?
Go hit the ayahuasca and see what ideas come up. You know, they need something because their receiver. You know, Rodgers is basically flat out said, "We've got guys that aren't performing, and I'm tired of having to play with them.
Yeah.
So I need you to get me guys that I want to play with." And Sammy Watkins came back just in time. I don't know.
He does seem to like. I mean, I know it was a joke, but he does seem to like Sammy Watkins more than than like Christian Watson.
Well, Watson has spent less time on the field than Watkins, I think.
Yeah.
So
I wish they would remember that they should run the ball with Aaron Jones, although I don't know that that would be a great idea against Buffalo, who actually has a decent defense. Their offense does not look good.
Yeah. It's not a good week to play your Packers.
On the flip side, you know, Stephon Diggs has been going great guns, but we've seen Gabe Davis, after getting back healthy, has been really explosive in the 2 games before the bye, and Dawson Knox starting to get his mojo back. How are you feeling about those two?
I feel awesome. I love Gabe. Gabe Davis is a perfect complement to Stephon Diggs. You know, the two of them with the mid-range game, Diggs is such an exceptional route runner, and Davis is just such a powerful route runner. He is, despite not being as big as Mike Evans, he's up there. He goes and gets it. He dominates at the catch point, and he gets open too. So it isn't like everything you throw at him is a contested catch. Davis is just having a phenomenal year. And, you know, as a third option, it's kind of a coin flip now between Shakir, who is pushing Isaiah McKenzie, who's back healthy again.
It's because McKenzie drops too much. I think the Bills are going to probably win by 20-plus points. I'm taking them.
I think they roll too, man.
I know there's people that said that the Packers will cover that spread. I don't see it. Monday Night Football is a battle of the AFC North as the 4-3 Cincinnati Bengals head in to battle the 2-5 Cleveland Browns. Dennis, no Jamar Chase, who's dealing with a hip issue that is expected to land him on IR, could be out 4 to 6 weeks. The Browns have really struggled defending the run. Could this be a big Joe Mixon game?
Man, Cincinnati's offensive line is getting better. But they're kind of getting better at about the same pace Justin Fields is getting better. And as much as I would like to think that Mixon is going to get it together, when they have such a strong passing game, even without Chase, would it surprise anybody if Boyd and Higgins both put up wide receiver 1 games this week? I mean, they probably have the best core of 3 wide receivers in the NFL right now. And then we got Denzel Ward, who's still not back from the concussion. The Browns are you know, they're putting some pressure on the quarterback. So maybe the matchup with Cincinnati's improving offensive line will help the Browns defense a little bit. But Mixon, he hasn't been doing a good job evading tackles. He hasn't been getting he's been getting hit behind the line fairly frequently. So it could be a get right game for him. But I'm probably gonna figure he's gonna get a short yardage touchdown. He's probably in for 60-ish yards rushing, and they are throwing the ball to him. So can he put up an RB1 game? Yeah, I think he can. I I'm gonna on my rosters where I have him. I'm starting him, expecting at least a low end RB1 game.
Yeah, I think he's going to do pretty well. On the flip side, the Browns are 2-5, still have 5 games before Deshaun Watson is eligible to come back, but they're kind of playing themselves out of contention. What can they do to change that?
So I wonder if Deshaun Watson was to like put on one of those masks so it was just his eyes and use maybe a tinted visor and then put on Jacoby Brissett's uniform, would anybody notice? I mean,
They would if he didn't throw the ball into the ground.
Jacoby he's a good guy and a try-hard quarterback, but I don't think he's Cincinnati's defense, I think, puts just enough pressure on the quarterback that it's going to hamper Jacoby. He's doing a good job getting the ball to Amari Cooper. That's great. David Njoku's out. It's time for Hunter Bryant to step up. He's performed well. We do have the best running game in the NFL, and Kareem Hunt may be with the team on Monday. He may get traded Monday night before the deadline on Tuesday. A lot of the talk I'm hearing here in Ohio is if the Browns lose, they're more likely to trade Kareem Hunt than if they win. And my thought is trading.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to make a big difference either way.
Get some draft capital to continue to build. We're not making the playoffs this year. Get some draft capital. Let D'Ernest Johnson get some playing time. See if Jerome Ford is healthy enough to come back and be your RB3. Maybe see a little bit of what we got there. Or maybe, just maybe, give the ball to Nick Chubb 25 times and throw it to him occasionally because he can catch it, believe it or not.
So can Amari Cooper, but they don't always remember he's there either. I am taking the Bengals.
I'm taking the Bengals at home as well.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for our look ahead at Week 8. Hopefully you find some players to fill your lineup holes out there. As Dennis mentioned, enjoy only having 2 teams on the bye this week because it gets to be more like bye apocalypse in Week 9. Until then, have a good weekend. Dennis and I will be back with you on Monday. And if the people have some free time, what should they do?
They should rate, they should review, they should download, subscribe. Check out the YouTube channel over at Campus to Canton. You can find our lovely faces over there. We love them 5-star reviews. It really helps us out. Go check out the other shows over at the Pigskin Podcast Network. Lots of team-centric shows that are not just awesome fantasy content like us.